They fired live missiles and a message rippled across the South China Sea. In a carefully staged and closely watched live fire exercise, Japan's self-defense forces launched Type 88 anti-ship missiles as part of this year's Balikatan exercises. The long-running U.S.-Philippines drills, whose Tagalog name means shoulder to shoulder. 2 volleys of missiles struck a decommissioned Philippine Navy vessel, the BRP Quezon, sending it to the bottom in waters facing the disputed South China Sea. The attack was deliberate, timed, and observed, and its meaning was unmistakable. The target was positioned roughly 75 kilometers off the coast of Pauay in northern Philippines. According to military accounts, the salvos found the mark within 6 minutes. Philippine Defense Secretary Gilberto Teodoro stood on the range with Japan's Defense Minister Shinjiro Koizumi to watch the outcome in person, while President Ferdinand Marcos Jr. monitored the operation remotely from Manila. Teodoro summed up the mood plainly: "I'm very, very proud and happy that we were able to pull this off for the first time, and it will only get larger in scope with more partners. That pride reflects more than a successful weapons test. It signals a broadening web of defense cooperation across the Indo-Pacific, one that now brings together the armed forces of the Philippines, the United States, Japan, and other partners, including Australia." For Manila, the exercise was a demonstration of expanding operational capacity, the ability to integrate allied systems and tactics to execute coordinated maritime strike missions, and to operate in contested littoral waters where sea control and freedom of navigation are daily questions of strategy and sovereignty. The weapon at the center of the event is Japan's Type 88 surface-to-ship missile, a sea-skimming subsonic cruise missile developed in the 1980s through an all-Japanese program. It is a mobile coastal defense system deployed on 6.6 truck launchers east. AGO carrying 6 missiles arranged in 2 rows of 3, supported by reload vehicles, radar, and fire control systems. The Type 88 follows pre-programmed routes, uses terrain masking near coastlines to reduce early detection, and then activates an active radar seeker in terminal approach to home on its target at very low altitude, roughly 5 to 6 meters above the sea. The missile's size and warhead matter. Roughly 5 meters long and carrying a semi-armor piercing fragmentation warhead of about 225 kilograms, the Type 88 packs enough explosive power to inflict severe damage or sink a medium to large surface combatant. Its propulsion combines a solid rocket booster for launch and a jet sustainer for cruise flight, allowing operational ranges often cited up to around 180 kilometers. Speed is high subsonic, typically in the Mach 0.8 to 0.9 range, which gives defending forces a limited window to detect, track, and engage, particularly in the cluttered, radar-challenging enviro. Nenant close to shore, in practical terms, that means the Type 88 can bring surprise into the littoral fight. Sea-skimming flight profiles sharply reduce the radar horizon and compress reaction times, even against vessels equipped with layered defenses. Modern warships have close-in weapon systems, short-range surface-to-air missiles, and multi-layered sensors. Yet history shows that subsonic anti-ship missiles remain lethal when fired with planning, mass, and the element of surprise. Observers have pointed to operations elsewhere as evidence. Subsonic missiles, such as the Neptune, were used to strike the Russian warship Moskva in the Black Sea, showing that layered defenses are not an absolute guarantee of survival when tactical vulnerabilities are exploited. The Type 88 in this exercise was not an isolated system. A complete battery includes the JTP-S, P-15 search radar and associated command and fire control systems, enabling the coordinated engagements of multiple missiles and targets. Without continuous external illumination within Japan's ground self-defense force, these mobile coastal defense units are organized into surface-to-ship missile regiments and companies, each with multiple launcher and reload vehicles. While Japan has been introducing newer Type 12 missiles into additional units in recent years, Type 88 batteries remain active across the main islands, and the program has benefited from electronic upgrades aimed at improving ECCM and data link resilience. Beyond the technical specifics, the political dimension is central. This live fire took place amid stepped-up discussions between Tokyo and Manila about defense transfers following Japan's relaxation of restrictions on military exports. Reports from officials indicate talks on possible early transfers of Abakuma-class destroyer escorts and Beechcraft TC-90 aircraft to the Philippines, part of a larger effort to boost Manila's maritime capabilities. For Japan, such transfers and collaborative training are a way to shape regional security dynamics without departing from the careful boundaries of its post-war defense posture. For the Philippines, the benefits are obvious: improved deterrence, enhanced maritime domain awareness, and the ability to defend coastal approaches in an increasingly contested maritime environment. Not everyone welcomed the image of Japanese missiles striking Philippine hulls. Beijing responded with a sharp rebuke. Chinese Foreign Ministry spokesperson Lin Jian called the action yet another example of the Japanese right-wing forces' push for accelerated remilitarization of Japan. He argued that Tokyo had repeatedly breached Japan's exclusively defense-oriented policy and relevant rules in international and domestic laws, and that some of their policies and moves have gone far beyond the scope of self-defense. The diplomatic rebuke encapsulates deep mistrust to China. Any strengthening of Japanese capabilities in proximity to disputed maritime zones is cause. Need for alarm, and any display of allied interoperability looks like a strategic alignment against Beijing's interests. The exercise and Japan's direct participation with live missile firings underscores the increasingly fraught calculus in the South China Sea. China's expansive maritime claim, commonly traced to a so-called 9-dash line, overlaps the exclusive economic zones of several Southeast Asian states and sits at the heart of ongoing disputes. Beijing asserts historical rights across nearly 90% of the sea. The legal basis of that claim has been contested by neighboring states and challenged in international arbitration. Regardless of legal arguments, the practical fact is that multiple capitals now regard China's maritime posture, the buildup of naval and paramilitary presence, the establishment of outposts on reclaimed features, and assertive patrolling near disputed shoals as a threat to regional stability and to their maritime rights. That threat perception dry. Best behavior for literal nations and U.S. allies. Improving maritime strike capability is not just about sinking ships in exercises. It's about deterrence, denial, and the capacity to impose costs on an adversary that might aggressively contest access to sea lanes or fisheries. Exercises like Balikatan serve to practice command and control links, refine targeting and timing for multinational strikes, and ensure interoperability between different weapon systems and operational doctrines. They also send visible signals to domestic audiences, to potential adversaries, and to allies that commitments are being translated into capability. The BRP Quezon itself carried symbolic weight. A World War II arrayer vessel once commissioned into the U.S. cases Navy as the minesweeper USS Vigilance before later serving under the Philippine flag. It was chosen as a sacrificial target in a live fire scenario designed to test weapons tactics and coordination under realistic conditions. The image of an aging hull being struck and sinking neatly captured the exercise's dual messages: a proof of concept for modern lethality and a rehearsal of coalitional responses to maritime threats. From a tactical perspective, missile salvos are designed to overwhelm. Launching multiple missiles in spread or salvo formations forces defenders to allocate sensors and interception resources across several tracks. The Type 88 sea skimming low observable approach reduces detection windows. Observable approach reduces detection windows, while modern upgrades to guidance and data link help a fired missile resist jamming and adjust mid-course to compensate for changes in target movement or environmental conditions. Yet defenses remain potent. A ship equipped with layered point defense systems, good situational awareness, and well-drilled crews can still disrupt or defeat incoming missiles. The crucial variables are surprise, saturation, and the quality of the defender's electronic warfare and battle management strategy. The exercise is both reassuring and warning. It reassures U.S. U.S. allies and partners of collective resolve that the United States is not the sole provider of advanced strike capabilities in regional exercises, and it warns potential adversaries that coordinated multinational operations capable of sea denial are possible. The optics are particularly significant given Japan's political debates over the scope of its defense posture. For decades, Japan's military doctrine and arms exports were tightly constrained by constitutional and legal limits. Recent policy shifts have expanded Tokyo's latitude to engage in broader security cooperation, including the transfer of defensive equipment to partners. That policy shift, while bolstering regional partners, fuels Beijing's narrative of remilitarization and revives anxieties rooted in the 20th century. For Manila, the calculus is immediate and pragmatic. The Philippines faces recurring incursions, harassment, and increasingly assertive maritime behavior by larger neighbor, or is building a multi-layered defense and enhancing interoperability with advanced partners expands Manila's toolkit, better maritime domain awareness, the ability to contest approaches, and a more credible deterrent against coercive acts. Exercises that place Allied missiles beyond their own coasts and into Philippine maritime waters show that defense cooperation now extends into operational depth, not just training, platforms, or logistics. There is also a learning dimension. Crews, commanders, and national staffs gain experience with multinational targeting processes, rules of engagement, and the legal and political implications of firing live ordnance in contested seas. These are not purely technical or tactical lessons. They are institutional ones. They help shape doctrine, procurement choices, and future force posture. They inform decisions about whether to acquire more coastal defense missiles, to upgrade shipborne defenses, or to invest in architectures that improve jointness, such as data links and shared targeting catalogs. And yet these examples of growing interoperability do not erase the fog of escalation. The region remains a complex patchwork of overlapping claims, alliances, and historical sensitivities. Every show of force or coordinated exercise is watched through multiple lenses. Allies see reassurance. Rivals see challenge. Domestic constituencies see strengthened security. Neighbors may see provocation. Managing those perceptions is critical if deterrence is to remain stable and if inadvertent escalation is to be avoided. The live fire sinking of the BRP Quezon will be remembered not for the loss of a decommissioned hull, but for what it symbolized: a rehearsed capability, a public demonstration of Allied cohesion, and a strategic nudge to competitors. The images are intended to be instructive, to show that modern coastal defenses and multinational strike packages can be assembled, synchronized, and executed in relatively short order. As this new era of cooperation unfolds, the balancing act will continue. Tokyo must navigate domestic limits and international reaction. Manila must weigh capability gains against diplomatic fallout. Washington and other partners must calibrate support to maximize deterrence while minimizing escalation. And Beijing will continue to assess whether displays like these are temporary posturing or signs of durable strategic realignment. In the end, the sinking of a single vessel in an exercise captures a broader truth about the maritime future of the Indo-Pacific. Control of coastal approaches and the ability to deny or contest access will grow ever more central to national security. Missiles like the Type 88 are one instrument in that contest. Mobile, lethal, and integrated into a larger system of sensors, command nodes, and allied planning. For nations that share sea lanes and depend on maritime commerce, the hope is that demonstrations of capability will deter conflict, not provoke it. What remains clear is this: the sea is no longer a simple backdrop to diplomacy. It is a stage for strategy. The Balikatan live fire was a performance with an audience of capitals, navies, and publics. The actors exercised new scripts. The props were modernized missiles, and the final act, the sinking of the BRP Quezon, delivered a message intended for multiple listeners. Whether that message leads to greater stability through deterrence or to a deeper spiral of mutual suspicion depends on the diplomatic steps that follow these drills, and on the diplomatic steps that follow these drills, and on the judgments leaders make in capitals from Tokyo to Manila to Beijing.